Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of the Simplify Your Life Summit. My name is Justin Crosscarry, and I am joined by Dr. Sundardas. And I'm so excited not only for the information that he has, being a naturopathic physician, but also being an international speaker, author, but also his story, which is incredible and remarkable, his resilience. And I just want to thank you very much for making time. I know you're a busy man. You said you're coming out to San Diego here pretty soon, and you're seeing all your clients and your patients. So thank you very much, doctor. I appreciate it. And
Thank you, Justin.
of course, yeah. And I would love for you, so these listeners, these viewers can really get an idea of what you've been able to accomplish with the different hurdles that you've had in your life. I would love for you to just briefly explain how the beginning of your life was.
Okay, I was born with congenital birth defects. So they started surgery at 6 months of age so that I could actually drink milk through my mouth.
Mm,
Before that, for the first 6 months, they fed me through my nose.
mm,
The surgery started at 6 months of age and continued ongoing for until I was 14 years of age. By 6 years, I was hearing handicapped, speech disabled, brain damaged, and autistic. Um, Maybe the best thing was nobody actually told me that or made it clear to me how bad things were. So that
mm,
was the best thing. If you
yeah,
don't know how bad things are, you think, oh, that's life, and you just move on.
yeah.
I think that people ask me sometimes how I kept going, and first thing was that my family didn't make me feel very different. Okay,
Mm,
so it's like you do what you can.
yeah.
So it was like, okay, all of this is a challenge, and you just do it. And the second thing was I was really competitive, okay? And that helps. So the moment somebody told me you can't do it, the first thought in my head was, says who?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. The second thing is autistics are not into emotional stuff. So one of the issues that many people struggle with is other people's approval and whether you're a good person or a bad person. And since I was autistic, it didn't matter so much,
Mm,
right? If somebody disapproved of me, I saw it as their failing, not mine. That was their problem, not mine. And in retrospect, that was really, really powerful. Then when I was about 14, my mother died of cancer,
mm,
and that was like, I'm going to find a solution. So if you're talking about what set me off, is that issue, fixing that. And so I got real mono-focused and decided I was going to find solutions. And so that was like, bang, you set the fire, and I went on and did a whole bunch of different things. And the next major step was life kind of blew up when I was about 37, 38. Some of my best friends died. My first marriage fell apart. And I thought, I've hit the wall, right?
mm-hmm,
And I'm going to say this. I think life gives you an opportunity to break through. So every potential breakdown is an opportunity to break through. It's
mm,
whether you see it's an opportunity or not. And so that was that opportunity to do one flip, right? And I decided I would look at a different aspect of my life, and that set the whole thing out. Now, one of the issues of being autistic is we can't sleep very well. So for years, I was sleep deprived. And then when I was about 41, 42, I was, like you said, starting another business, training for another martial art exam, sleeping 4 hours a day, working about 12 hours a day, and then I decided to train like 12 hours for this martial arts exam.
mm.
I crashed. I developed a rare autoimmune infection, and as I lay dying in the hospital in the ICU unit, it's like it was like the final breakdown and the final breakthrough. My life suddenly did a complete 180 degrees flip, and I decided that if I was going to live and I was going to come back, I was going to share the message of helping people get absolutely clear about their life, to find out what your core priority was, to cut through all the bullshit of our early childhood programming, because that helps you get to a certain point. But after 35, if you don't get to what's really important to you, eventually you start breaking down.
Mm.
And that was the final flip, because prior to that, I didn't really want to share with people. Okay, if you came to my practice, I'll do the best job possible. But we're autistic, we are introspective, I stay inside my head, and having to connect with people was hard work.
That's pretty incredible, that breakdown was such a breakthrough, especially saying that you didn't like sharing that with people, because since then you've been featured on
Yeah,
CNBC, BBC,
yeah,
USA
yeah,
Today. Like,
yeah.
you are all over the place sharing, inspiring. And I would like to ask you, when it comes to that 35, what is it about that number that you've figured out, that
Okay,
age?
so the science part is quite simple. Before 35, you have two core processes: anabolic, which means you build up; catabolic, which means you break down. Before 35, you are more in an anabolic state than catabolic. So your body's going to say, you know what, whatever you do, I'll take care of it.
Hmm.
Okay, so you're building up more than breaking down. Okay, after 35, it flips.
Hmm.
Once that happens, your capacity for extra stuff goes down. Your capacity to fool around, make mistakes, and all of that, and compensate for that goes down. And the other important thing is that your capacity to make good decisions become impaired, because you have literally only 5 minutes of willpower a day. So if you do not have good habits, you do not have positive habits in a particular area, you will end up going round and round in circles, exhaust your 5 minutes of willpower for that day, and then you start making bad decisions or default decisions. A simple way to explain that is, never go into a supermarket hungry to buy the right food. You can't. So
Yep.
you go in when you've eaten well, and then when you go in, you can make good decisions. So
Mm.
that's about supermarket. Imagine making life decisions at your worst possible state. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's really crucial. Which is why, to make a point, if you look at Steve Jobs, and you know he was always wearing turtleneck sweaters.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you think it's just a quirk. But if you look at anyone who's a high achiever, they systemize their lives. And one of the ways you use up a lot of energy is deciding what to wear in the mornings. Right? You use up 5 minutes, and for the rest of the day, all your decisions will not be the best you can make.
Yeah, I want to really emphasize that, because this is a practice that I've begun myself. I'll do a quick little snippet in my room, but I have that rack over there.
Yeah,
That rack is specifically before I go to bed every night. This is something
yeah,
I've been doing for about a year and a half. I
yeah,
pick out the clothes I'm going to wear,
yeah,
from my boxers to my
yeah,
socks to my shirt,
yeah,
everything.
yeah,
Even if I'm going to put on, a necklace or something.
yes,
And it's incredible. And I learned that because of Steve Jobs, and Zuckerberg does the same,
yeah,
pretty similar thing as well.
yeah,
And it makes sense. I would
yeah,
love for you to talk about, what are some other, like, that is incredibly simple, right?
yeah.
What are some other simple habits that you've helped? Because I know you work with really, really high achievers.
Yeah.
What are some simple things that the average person, the viewer that's listening to this, can do that's similar to that little tip that you just
Well,
gave right there?
the bottom line is, one of the most powerful things we teach in our course is the idea of ritualizing your life. Okay, and what it means is, there are two major components that you need to really, really, really be full on. And one is your wind up ritual, which is when you get up in the morning, how do you prepare for the rest of the day, so
Mm.
your brain is set right and you're on a boom. And then at the end of the day, your wind down ritual, because if you cannot sleep well, I spoke about that, literally your efficiency goes down.
Mm-hmm.
So to give you a point, those in the early days, I would be sleeping 4 or 5 hours. and I'm actually like clocking in about 14 hours a day. Now I do in 15 minutes what would have taken me an hour or maybe 2 hours to do before.
And that's getting
Right.
ready for bed?
Yeah, and that's because I'm getting enough sleep and I've got my days lined up, and everything that I do is chunked down so it's the right bite size. Okay, so this leads into a very important principle, which is don't overload your brain with half a dozen messages. They don't overload it. It's quite pointless. So when you have absolute clarity about your life, about what's important, what matters, your brain is not overwhelmed with I gotta fix this, I gotta fix that, I gotta fix this. Don't firefight. Then you have rituals that manage your energy. Okay? And we all have 45 minutes to 1.5 hours in a day where your brain is going to be at peak form. You have to find out when that time is and save all the really creative work for that piece.
Wow, I didn't know that. Can you speak more into that 45 minutes that?
Well, to give you a perspective, the average CEO of a top 500 company does the bulk of his work in 35 minutes a day. Everything else is busy work. Okay?
Yeah.
And the average person will have only 45 minutes a day where your brain is full on, and you have to find out the peak time for that. And we actually suggest a process where over 3 to 5 days you assess which is your peak time. And that 45 minutes is what you use to do creative work. Now, if you don't do creative work at that point, and then you try to do stuff, what you can do in 45 minutes may take you days, weeks, or months. So you find that 45-minute slot and you prepare the rest of the day so you get it done in that 45-minute chunk.
And how do you find that 45-minute spot?
Well, there are a few different ways. One of them is you look at times in your life when you've been really, really creative. Okay? And since I have kept a journal since I was 14, I actually can look back. That's one way of doing it. The other way is you spend maybe 1 week to 2 weeks and you look at the different times and when you're trying to do productive work. And then over those 2 weeks, you figure out where and when were you the most effective. So you may have 2 or 3 slots. But normally, this is where it gets tricky, right? So people who habitually sleep late will say that their peak time is about between 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. And actually, that is not a good idea because you're disrupting your circadian rhythms. Okay, and you should be sleeping. So when you're constantly sleep deprived, you tend to put your time there because the rest of the day you're so busy. But when you sleep enough, for most people, the reality is somewhere between the time you get up to about 11, 12, just before lunchtime. For some, it may be in afternoons, but I think it's somewhere in the hours of the early morning to about 11.
Okay. Yeah, what came to mind, I didn't know that it was only 45 minutes, but what came to mind for me was around about 10:30. I think that's when I really start to feel myself kick in. When it comes to our goals and setting goals, I know you're a big advocate on the right way. There's specific ways that you found that can help high achievers, or anyone for that matter, really achieve those goals. I would love for you to speak into that.
So we have a 3-step process, and normally when people set goals, they decide to set a goal and then they plan to implement it. Okay, I'm going to point out that that's okay when you are in school or you are attending a course, because the framework, the environment, the background for that goal setting is already in place. Somebody else is giving you the cues. They're saying hit the target, and you hit the target.
Mm.
So if you're working for other people, you are at the literally at the mercy of somebody else, and they tell you this is your goal. It's pretty clear. The moment you become a fully fledged adult, you're running your own business and all of that, the rules change. And once you cross the 35-year mark, the rules change even more. And this is what happens. Most times, we are setting goals that are in conflict with who we are.
Mm.
Okay, so you're fighting with it, you're struggling with it. At other times, you're setting a goal that doesn't really maximize or allow you to be fully who you are. It's not a direct conflict, but it's something that you're doing because you want to please somebody.
Mm.
So what we talk about is a 3-step process. And the first step in that process is something called evaluate. So you evaluate your life. Okay, you check out what works, what doesn't work. And one powerful way of doing this is to keep a diary, and you evaluate your life at regular intervals, and you be retrospective about it. So I'm really, really grateful that for whatever reason, I started keeping some kind of a diary by the time I was 14 years old.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying I kept it consistently, but I'll be good for about 10, 15 years. Then I may go off for a few years and I come back. So I've got literally from 14 up to now, that's about 40 years of stuff, which I can look back and I have a really good perspective of what works, what doesn't work, what I should do more of, what I should do less of.
Mm.
So that then means that I have a clear idea of what lights my fire, what doesn't, what works for my business and what doesn't. And so when there's the latest, newer, shiny thing that comes along, I can say, does it fit or doesn't it fit?
Mm.
So
Based
think
on what
about,
you've written in your journal.
yeah, yeah. And the reality is that once you become an adult and you're running your business, and the more complex your life gets, the more after a while you realize that there are skills and resources you don't have. And that's a good thing. So you can learn more, right? But the downside is that the moment somebody waves something in front of you, you get seduced and you start running after it. And so the first part is to evaluate. So you actually test out different areas of your life, get clear about it, and you can figure out what it is that works and doesn't work for you. So that's the first step. The second step, so most people don't even do the first step. And they definitely don't do the second step, which is before you even plan for what matters in your life, you want to get rid of everything that doesn't.
Mm.
Okay, so this
Yeah.
is all about relationships, habits, uh, things that you hang on to, but they no longer serve a purpose. You need to empty, right? And then you can invite and bring in the new stuff.
It's
So
kind of
it's
like
like,
spring cleaning, like
yeah,
cleaning out your house or your
yeah,
room.
yeah. Now, spring cleaning your house makes you feel good. Imagine what happens when you spring clean your mind, your emotions, and then you're really clear about stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
this is all agendas, commitments you have made at a time when you didn't know better, and now you know better. And you feel guilty if you try and let it go. In the meantime, somebody is taking advantage of your guilt trip.
Mm.
And just so that you have some perspective, nearly every one of the individuals I'm working with, when they have physical issues and they're in a great deal of stress, really the heart of it is they didn't do steps 1 and 2 well. Okay, they didn't evaluate their lives clearly enough to figure out what's important to them, and they didn't get rid of crap.
Mm.
And you can't go and tell somebody directly get rid of your crap when you're in a feeling really vulnerable, because it becomes another way of beating them up. Okay, so you gotta wait till they're feeling better about stuff and say, look, would you consider this? And that's why I've been really careful about that, because I remember as a young person and people telling me, just trust the intuition, and it didn't work for me. So I'm not going to go and be offensive the same way to somebody and say, junk all the stuff that doesn't work in your life, because you need to have a process of how do I consider what works and doesn't work.
Mm.
And you need to be supportive while people are going through that process, because it's very difficult. It's very, very painful to let things go that you've been hanging on, even if it don't serve you. And that's really one of the biggest things for having a successful life, letting go of what no longer serves you.
Have you been able to find some supportive or simple ways of reframing that in your mind when you're working with
Yes,
your...
and at different times, there are different things that I've had to do to sort that out. And this is where it gets really, really individual, because we all have a different value system, and it's your value system that will decide what's important and how you can let it go. So the people who are, shall we say, they have a religious framework or spiritual framework, I will say it's in your best interest to live your best life possible, because then you can contribute to the world, you can be the best who you are, and you can serve yourself, your community, and your family the best. And in order to do that, you have to be the best tool possible.
Mm.
Okay, so that's what I would say to anyone who's got the larger perspective. To individuals who are all about, it's all about me, it's also fine. I'm going to say, if you want to get the most out of your life and you want to squeeze the most juice out of it, you have to let go of old baggage, because then you're carrying a heavy load. So I've got two different messages, and it's not for me to decide what powers them, what motivates them. That's their journey. My journey is to help them get along that journey in the best possible way.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is, because step one, journaling, that's definitely something I found supportive too. And I definitely get to be better about that. I go through phases.
Yeah,
Step two, as you mentioned, is really difficult. So when you come to those situations, you have different things that maybe you've been holding on to that aren't serving
yeah,
you. It's really figuring out why. So
yeah.
figuring out that why per person. I love that. And then what's step three?
So after you've gotten clear about who you are and what matters to you, and you get rid of stuff, then the step three is the step that everybody is familiar with, which is you figure out what you want and you go for it. The only difference I'm going to make about what I'm saying is that most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 3 or 5 years.
Mm.
So I don't talk
Elaborate on
about,
that.
yeah, I don't talk about 1 year goals. I talk about setting yourself a 5 year plan, and then you work backwards. Now, the other issue that people have when they work on a goal is they don't break it down into small bite-piece chunks. So when you don't do that and you have a large piece, you get stuck and you can't move forward. Okay? And you think there's something wrong with you. And then all the guilt, blame, self-doubt creeps in. The reality is the piece is too big. You can't chew it. So you got to break it down into a 15-minute chunk.
Mm.
That's the other important rule I talk about. So I've got a 5 year plan, and I'm looking at all the pieces in the plan. Then I look at what do I do today in 15 minutes that will get me to my 5 year plan. Okay, and then all these stops and checkpoints and all of that. And they all have to be doable. It's like no big steps, no heroic stuff, because that's how you burn out.
Yeah.
So having been there and done that so many times, I don't have time to burn out anymore.
It's the simple, mundane
Yeah,
things that we don't want to do. I was
yeah,
actually interviewing one of the founding coaches for John C. Maxwell,
yeah,
and I'm sure you're familiar with John C. Maxwell,
yeah,
and he has 5 things that he does every single day.
yeah,
Doesn't matter if it's a Tuesday, it doesn't matter if it's New Year's Eve, it doesn't matter if it's Christmas.
yeah,
He does it every single day. He
yeah,
reads, he writes, he communicates, files, and journals
yeah,
every single day. And
yeah,
it's a mundane thing. And I think I love how you mentioned that, like 1 year is a short amount of time to make some big life changes, right? So is that
yeah,
what separates the 1 year from the 5 years, because you're allowing
yeah,
yourself the
yeah.
the time to.
Yeah. And some, like a really big project, may take that kind of time. And if you don't, and you try and squeeze it in, you just beat yourself up and you think it's not going to happen. Okay. So
Yeah.
I've given myself, to date, I've had written about 20 books, 12 of them have been published. Right?
Yeah.
So now I'm planning to release like my last 5 books, which will be a summary of everything I've done. And I'm excited about it. But I don't want to work hard at it. So I'm giving myself an 8-year time frame. And the 8 years is not to write the book, it's to get my marketing right. Because my weakest link is my marketing. So if I let myself go, I could probably finish the 5 books in 3.5 years. But then I'm not going to do the marketing. So now the journey is not the books, but how do I communicate about the value you're going to give people who are going to get access to the books and the material.
Yeah.
And in doing that, I'm going to learn more about myself and about people. So it becomes an interesting journey. It's not just
Going for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Question for you, being a naturopathic physician and being really into and just medicine in general, also an acupuncturist. I'm curious, it's kind of a little off subject, but at the same time not. Burnout, stress, self beat up, these are all different chemical changes right inside of our body that are incredibly harmful to the body. So I'd love for you to touch on, when you do give yourself that grace, when you do give yourself that 5 years, when you do, pull back a little bit and not go into self beat up, what is that doing to your chemistry, your body on the inside, as far as longevity and health?
Okay, great question. So the first thing is that when you are in an emergency mode, and it's good to be in emergency mode if there's a real emergency, your body produces chemicals like cortisol and adrenaline to prepare you for that. Okay, so everything goes to your extremities, stuff doesn't go to your brain or to your gut, so you can fight or flight. After that, you're supposed to go into recovery. If you are in this beating yourself up mode, you don't go into recovery. Okay. There are a whole bunch of toxic changes that occur when you have hormones like cortisol circulating. They damage your brain, they damage your gut, they damage your kidneys. That's the basis for everything from high blood pressure to cancer over a long period of time. And when the more you have a life like that, the more you trigger off old childhood programming voices in your head that tell you you're no good, you're not good enough, you're never going to measure up, and your life is not going to be successful. All the old messages play. And those are the biggest downside to living a fulfilling life. So I'm not saying I haven't gone through that, otherwise I can't talk about it, so I have. And I've also worked with thousands of people to help them see the sense that, okay, that was useful before, it's not useful now. So there are programs that we actually help people tune them out and rewire your brain. And so that's that part of it. The other part of it is you need a really compelling future, so juicy, so exciting, so full of juice and life, so that then you are motivated enough to do the work to get there. And you need little steps along the way. So along the way, you have, it's like playing a computer game. Every now and then you get this reward here, you get reward there. You have this special bonus points. So you want to plan your life. And that's the whole point of a design life. So it's like that computer game. Think of the juiciest computer game you've played, and when you won big time and you got all the points, and that's how you want to design your life.
Wow. So question for you, would you say that it would be, what are some ways that you can add in those juicy up-leveling, you beat the bad guy, beat the boss in the video game? Would that be implementing like maybe a vacation or a trip once a quarter, or something that you thoroughly enjoy?
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to have enough things that make you feel rewarded. Okay, so as part of, we've actually, so we go back to step one. This is about assessing what works for you. So you want to figure out what is it that lights a fire up. So I was involved in doing martial arts for many, many years. Then I stopped. And I found that it was like, right? So now I've gone back to it. And I'm doing stuff on my own. I'm learning new weapon systems just to keep my brain stuff. And I'm really excited, right? So I got a workout routine in the morning, which is really short and intense. Then I see patients. I come back at night. And then I go downstairs and I play with my little toys. So that's like, wow, I'm so excited. Then the idea here is to have a 4 to 5 day break at a minimum every 3 months.
4
go
to
away
5 day
somewhere.
break. Yes.
Every 3 months. And then every 6 months, like twice a year, do a 1 week to 2 week vacation at the minimum. Okay. So you are constantly looking forward to that. And then when you're there and you feel like recharged, you're really excited about coming back and doing stuff.
Yeah. If we were, I love those. If we were to talk about a day working, you know, would you say that it's more beneficial, say at the end of the day, when you start to lose your, did I lose you? Are you frozen? Can you hear me? There we go. Can you hear me, Dr. Sundardas? Okay. I'm not getting any audio from you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you mind if we go like a little bit, like 15 more minutes? Okay.
Sure, go ahead.
Because I'm loving this. So for those listeners, and even myself included, let's say, you know, a typical person works 9 to 5, right? 8 hours, and then commuting to and from work, let's just call it 9. With a lot of us, especially in the age we're in now, it's like, especially here in America, I'm sure you're aware, it's all about the hustle, the grind, the grind. And what we just talked about, what that does to your body, what that does to your emotions, you don't think, you know, as clearly. What are some ways that you've found to set your clients up for success when they come home to work, or maybe they are almost forcing themselves to do something that they enjoy?
Yeah. So the bottom line here is that is your amount of nutrition, diet, lifestyle, making sure you got some kind of a workout routine, physical workout, mental workout. Physical workout is some kind of exercise pattern. Mental workout will be some kind of a meditative practice, right? At least in the mornings, and a wind down ritual at the end of the day. Right? Wind down, so you have to be as deliberate about your wind down as you are about your wind up. So most people may be deliberate about the wind up, but they assume your brain's going to shut down. But imagine that you're working on your computer, and your computer goes through its whole cycle of how it shuts down. So you got to train your body to shut down so that you can turn it on and turn it off. So those are two crucial bits. The second one is that throughout the day, we ask people to focus only on what matters and only on issues that they can do something about.
That's powerful.
Yeah, and so we got a sequence of steps, and we have a particular handout where we give people about, you know, is this within your control? Is this something you can do something about? Is it really your business? Right? So there are many things that I can be, you know, bothered about. I really want to change it, but I've got no power over it. So I have to let that go so that I can be effective. And the longer I've been doing all that I've been doing, the more I realize how small is my zone of influence. And the more I focus on that little bit I can do. And the more focused I get, the more comments from my clients is that I'm being very impactful. So my perception is, as I grow older, I realize there's only so little I can do, and every day it shrinks. But the perspective from out there is that I'm becoming more and more impactful. So it's really, really interesting to notice that. And I remember when I was far younger and I thought I could do so much more. And the impression, the comments from outside was that I seem to be all over the place. Then as I grow older, I realize how little I can do and it shrinks.
Mm.
And the comments are how impactful I am.
Yeah. It's so funny that you mentioned that. I'm literally feeling that in my life now, I'll put my day together and I'll have like 3 or 4, maybe 5 or 6 different things. I'm like, okay, my number one goal for today is finish everything on this list. And life happens, right?
Yeah.
And what I've realized is each time, it's funny because I've intuitively started to do that.
Yeah.
I'm bringing down less.
Yes.
At first, sounds like, okay, well, you're being less productive.
Yeah.
The part that's awesome is I'm actually accomplishing those no matter what. And it's the feeling I'm getting inside, right? Like you just lit up talking about that as well.
Yeah.
So not only are you releasing, good endorphins when you're accomplishing those goals, but you're also, it's the rabbit and the hare.
Yeah.
Or I mean the rabbit and the
Tortoise.
Tortoise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Powerful.
Yeah.
Another question for you that came up that I was thinking. So for anyone that's listening, and myself included, when it comes to all the different things that you can be up to in a day, right? And the stress hormones and everything that we were just discussing.
Yeah.
What are some simple things that these listeners, these viewers can start implementing today that can radically shift their life? I know you talked about morning and like that's huge, morning and evening routines, but would it be breath work? Would it be meditation? Would it be gratitude? I mean, those are just a few things that come to my mind.
Yeah.
But
And you want to incorporate all of that as to part of your rituals. So when you do your diary, apart from commenting on what's happening throughout the day, either in your meditative practice or in your diary, you can do a gratitude journal. Or you can actually say thank whatever is important to you in your life, whatever force, deity, belief systems you have, and just thank the forces that be for the great day that you had.
Mm-hmm.
And if challenges come up, be thankful for what you're going to learn from the challenge. Because, the reality is when things work out really well, you just know it worked. You don't learn anything from it. You only work out when shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
So every time shit hits the fan in my life, I do a detailed analysis of it to figure out how I can benefit from the experience. What did it teach me? To get really clear about my emotional baggage and how I can make sure that there's a less chance of this situation occurring. So they become really powerful learning experiences. And this is ongoing stuff. So some people say, stress-proof yourself so nothing goes wrong. And I think it doesn't work that way. I think what happens is every time you're open to the learning, the number of things that can go wrong go down because you've sorted out most of the stuff. You're no longer firefighting. And when something does happen, it will be so new and outside the model that you're going to learn a lot. And
that is so impactful. Like that is one of the most impactful things I've heard, just because we focus and we've been trained right through life to try and avoid failure, and it's just avoid how we look and not looking bad and whatnot. But when we understand, like, for myself, I go back to a job I had a few years ago where it was really difficult and I was on my own and I was learning how to do some plumbing and some handyman work on my own with, my mom had the pink toolbox. So there was not, my dad didn't teach me how to work with tools, but after I figured out how to do it, it was, shit did hit the fan. But when I figured out how to do it, it was like, I just won the World Series, it was like the greatest feeling
Absolutely.
ever.
Absolutely.
And it's looking for, that is so powerful. I want all the speakers all the viewers and all the listeners to understand, like, that is one of the most impactful things that you can do is be grateful for when shit hits the fan and find the beauty in it, because that is truly where the growth is. When we go and exercise, we're causing our body to fail, right?
Yeah.
That's how we grow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the controlled failure is how you become stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Totally.
so the biggest learning curve was when I had the heart failure. So now I'm grateful for that, but I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen again, because it's not a very cost-effective way of learning.
Yeah, it's not. It's definitely not. Well, I know we went a little bit over, but you were just a plethora of knowledge, and I thank you so much. And I know you have a free gift for all the listeners
Yes.
as well. So I'd love for you to talk about that as well.
So the free gift is a light version of the book which I wrote, Life by Design. And it's got an overview of all the things we've spoken about. And every chapter is an overview of it. So they get a quick read of the processes we've just gone through and what they can do. So that helps to reinforce what we just spoke about.
Mm,
And if they go on to then get an e-copy of the book, which is also available for them, there are actually videos embedded in each one of those chapters, which also add to the learning. So it's all up to them.
I love it. That's very exciting. I'm definitely going to be ordering that book. I like to physically have my book, as you can see in there, but I might
Yeah,
have to do both just so I
yeah,
can
yeah,
read them wherever I'm at. Where
yeah,
can these listeners, these viewers find you on social media, online?
yeah. And I think I sent them a link to that particular book. My clinic page, they can go into my www.drsundardas.com, and that is like the gateway to all the stuff I do. The
Yeah, and
clinic,
I'll put a
yeah,
link on there so
yeah,
everyone can see that too.
yeah.
So they get there because fantastic knowledge that you are bringing in, such an amazing story. And I thank you so much for making time and being on here.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share.
Yes. And
Yes,
have a great rest of your evening and your day. And
yeah,
looking forward to all these viewers and hearing the responses.
great.
See ya.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, bye.